Today's our panel is thinking about collaboration beyond the inside-outside divide. And we have with us Gary Fine, Ronald McKeithen, Lloyd Brooks, and Dina Dickerson. I'd like for each of them to say a little about themselves before they do their presentation. Their full bios are available on our website, markingtimeart.com/symposium.
Hi, my name is Gary Fine. I am the director of the Durland Alternatives Library. It's a small social justice library located on the Cornell University campus. Our collection focuses on community building, community activism, race, gender, ethnicity, social justice, and it's a fabulous library. It's free and open to everybody. And so if anybody is ever in Ithaca, New York, I would say, please come and visit us there. And I was there primarily because of my interest in food equity and alternative health. And about 20 years ago, I got a letter from a prisoner, Danny Harris, and Danny wrote me saying, I heard your library sent books to people in prison. And I wrote him back a friendly letter saying, oh, no, we don't have a service like that. And then he wrote me another letter saying, thank you so much for writing me a letter like I'm a real person, like I'm somebody. It means a lot. I'm in administrative segregation. He was in Texas. I have books, paper, and pencil, and I never get out of myself, right? And I've been here for years. And I thought, well, I can send him some books, you know. And I got another letter back that, oh my God, Christmas in July kind of thing. And I saw, like, what a bang for my buck, right? A few minutes of my time, gave him some good books. And so I started sending books to prisoners. It wasn't anything I intended to do, but the word spread very quickly. I think prisoners talk. They also send to resource centers the idea of like, oh, here's a place you can write to. So after about a year or so, I had a couple hundred people who were writing me for books, and what seemed easy became difficult because, you know, even if we were mailing out 40 or 50 packages a month, if you have 300 people waiting for books, you're going, oh my God. And so every letter I got said the same thing. They said, I'm going crazy. I hate everybody around me, especially people who are different looking than me. I can never tell people how I really feel because if I share it and I'm vulnerable, it will be used against me, and mail is the most important thing in my life. And so I'm sitting on this stack of letters and looking at this long waiting period before they're going to get their books, and I go, ooh. And I thought, I can't write to everybody individually, so I came up with the idea. Every month, I wrote them a bulk letter to all 300 or so. I said, every month I'm going to give you a topic to write on. And if you send me something on that topic, I will send you a compilation of what everybody else wrote, as well as a letter from me. So that way I could write one letter to all 300 people or whoever chose to write it. And I started getting submissions. And so every month a packet like this, you know, and I have slides. If you go to a couple more, that's the ultimate. Oh, I think, oh, I'm sorry. I just didn't
What I'm asking is to introduce yourself before you start presenting. So, this is great.
So I was going to do, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing my presentation. So the name of the program is Prisoners Press. And go one more slide, and that would be really helpful to you. Right. And so I started this idea of like, oh, writing throughs. And if you send something, you get a packet and mail, right? So mail is the most important thing. And the first writings were so full of hate, and everybody hated everybody, right? But after a couple of months, everything changed. And all of a sudden, the mail started saying, oh, I thought I was going crazy, but that person, that's exactly how I feel. That's what's the same thing's happening to me. And the realization is I'm in a crazy-making place. And there's a real difference between going crazy and being in a crazy-making place, because then there's tools you can use for helping you in that crazy-making place. The second thing they wrote is, oh, I thought I hated black, brown, white, pink, green people, but that guy, that woman, oh, we're the same. That's exactly what I'm thinking. And the third thing they started writing was, oh, I so appreciated the vulnerability or the story or the sharing that person did. I want to do that too, right? And so I'm reading this and I thought, oh, I got to do something with all the people who are waiting for books who aren't writing these letters. So I started this Prisoner Express newsletter. Maybe you can flip it. Oh, maybe that was, yeah, that one. So every month, every 6 months, we mail out this newsletter, and the newsletter will have 6 months worth of themes in it, but it'll only have like 5 or 6 themes from each month. Like there might be 40, 50 people who submit in a month, but 5 or 6 will be included in the newsletter, so there'll be 6 months worth of themes. And now we're having a conversation with everybody all at the same time. So it was like, well, as long as we're in conversation with everybody, what other programs can we have? And if you flip to the next slide, and now I'm jumping 20 years, right? Because this, and I wish I had the time, because I know I got 11 minutes and I'm going really quick to tell you about some of the incredible things we've done over the last years with these projects. And it all involves listening to the letters that the prisoners write to get an understanding of what they're asking for. The thing that's really important when you asked about what is freedom, right? Like the thing we kept saying is that your bodies are in prison, but your minds are free and your words are important and we want to hear them. And the fact that I'm doing this based on one letter from Danny Harris, years ago, says that your words matter. And that I'm living proof of it, and well, I'll get further on in that in a minute. But anyway, so then on the newsletter, we have like a sign-up sheet, and I don't know if you can see, so every 6 months, think of it almost like a college semester or something, there's like 9 or 10 programs you can choose from. And most of the programs they're based on kind of like things we can't do, like hundreds of prisoners were writing for chess books, and we couldn't get hundreds of donated chess books all the time, so we started a chess program, and every 6 months we have lessons on how to play chess and strategies and famous chess players. Or another thing, we couldn't get enough art books, right? So, because so many prisoners say, I never even did art or I never read before, but now this is what's saving my life. Art and reading, writing, this saves my life. So then, and probably why I'm here is because then we started, every 6 months an art program, and I don't know, Tracy has been here before. She volunteers with the program and she helps with collaborate the art, the art program, and some of the art projects we've done have resulted in people submitting art that are now in the show here today, which is another way that shows to the people who are working with us that their thoughts and words do matter.
Including Billy Sell, who's no longer with us.
Right, Billy Sell, Jerome Washington, yes, there's a few others, but yes, and so of course my whole life is changed by all this correspondence. Right now there's maybe 4,000 active people writing semi-regularly, so we're swamped with mail, and they tell lots of stories. And it is interesting for me because when I'm processing it all, it's all really important and I see it, but when I see it out of my context and at a show like this, or this month there's a national publication, Rattle, and just by chance, not by chance, but the editor of this magazine saw some of the poetry projects we were doing. He dedicated this issue to the prison poets in our program, and he's going to give me 500 copies to mail out to all the prisoners, who are in, and I just know how inspiring that is to all the people in the program to know that they have an avenue for success. Oh, and so then, just for an example, I put up one of the packets that we did in the last cycle. It was called Astronomy. Everybody can sometimes see the night sky, and some people can't see the night sky. That's a big thing they say too, and they want to. So we did a packet on astronomy, and all our packets are 28, 32 pages, and we have very little money. There's no money in the budget for this. It all has to be raised. I'm fortunate that as director of the library, I can put all of the library resources to it, all the students who want to volunteer, all the different things, but we do this on very little money. But we'll put together a packet on astronomy, and at the same time, our art packet for that cycle was all about the sky and drawing the night sky, and it's full of prompts and both packets. And then what happens is, and this happens with most of our programs, after we get, it takes about 6 months for the whole thing to develop, then we put together a compilation of all the most interesting things people say and all the most interesting drawings we like, and we mail it back out to all the participants. And it happens all the time. I discovered it really early. Seeing your name in print and with it's just the recognition and the thought of like, I'm a smart person, like look at this, I've accomplished something. It means so much more when you have so little. It's one of the reasons why I've kind of dropped most everything I do and focus on this is because it is so freaking rewarding to experience how much joy people get from so little. I have to do so little to generate so much joy in these different individuals. And so that's really exciting. And
And I'm going to ask you
yes,
about that.
time up. Yes, and so is there any more slides? Any more slides there? So that's the Rattle magazine. And so then the other thing, if you go to our website, and I think it's in the thing, prisonerexpress.org, we've been, since the pandemic, we have students who write prisoners all the time, like hundreds of letters going out about their art, their poetry, their writings. But when the pandemic came, we started doing more online archiving. And so you can see, we have people who keep journals for years, people who send in lots of artwork, poetry. So it's all online now, and there's a way that you can write. If anybody here wants to, there's a way you can write to them, and there are addresses there, and the mail can come back to us, and we scan letters to people who are there. I'm always looking to collaborate, so if anybody here has any projects they'd like to see shared with thousands of prisoners, I'd be a good person to talk to. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I've just embraced that I'm getting old. And so normally I come off the cuff with whatever I'm going to say. And I do like Gary do, I just spill it all out. But I needed to say thank you first this morning. And that first thank you is to Nicole for your passion and influence and work, your diligent efforts, and to all of those that work and continue to work behind the scenes, enduring the frustrations and stressors to get us here. The panelists from yesterday and the marvelous way Shawnee guided us into community, creating a space for us to collectively be on common ground. I would also like to thank Kai Stevens and Deborah Daniels, who are some very influential women in my life. I want to say that I am Dina, a person who believes in the we, that does not make me different than anybody. My story itself is not unique. I too have fallen prey to the things, so I bring so many with me, especially my comrades in which I left behind the walls 10 years ago. I'm a person that does the most with little. I'm a person, an advocate, a servant, the CEO of a nonprofit, a coordinator and a navigator of the true reentry space. I'm a mother and I'm a grandmother. But when I throw all those titles out the way, I'm just Dina. And that's something that I'm grateful for, that I found my way to that space of first and foremost knowing and believing and trusting Dina. And then I could start becoming. And in that becoming, it's because of people that have been in my, that I met, that crossed my path, that I continue to become that very great thing that I was meant to be from the beginning. And so I've been privileged to collaborate in so many different spaces. And thank you, I think Stephen yesterday, and someone else that I was sitting with, and especially the panelists, that I've always questioned whether I was an artist or not. I've always doodled and played and things of that nature, but never really gave it enough attention. I always have aspired to become an artist, and the artist that I think, but never really sat down and gave it attention. So when I doodle, it's like it never comes out like I want it, or I always critique it, or whatever the case is. But it comes from a deep place, it comes from within, and it expresses where I am, who I am in that moment. And so, with that being said, I embrace today that my life is art. And so I will go into my presentation now to give you Dina, almost 20 years ago, when I met the wonderful Kai Stevens, a professor, a young lady from Auburn University that brought a creative writing into the institution in which I was housed, serving a 114-year sentence. I did not know that I could draw, and that was a self-portrait in which she guided us into. I'm a thinker. I'm an analytic person. I'm a giver. And I hide a lot. And so you can go to the next one if you will. And so me becoming an artist, I never knew what I really liked because I didn't think I was an artist. And so what I found out, meeting this guy, Tracy, looking in a window after dropping off clothes at a women's facility in which I volunteered, that I liked the texture. And he was painting, and I was looking in the window, and all of a sudden I saw this half-naked white guy with paint all over him and no shoes on. I'm like, what in the world? Right? And so he's like, and I'm like, and so I go into this building and I see all this wonderful, beautiful art that he's doing and everything, and he brought me back into that space of my passion. And he said, just do. And so I did. And go on. And so I've always had the ability to see things beyond the chaos of my life and someone else's. And so I think it comes out in my work, whether that's in the physical space and the things that I do and that I've become known for, or on a canvas itself. And so when I look at this, and if I have to title that, it would be Peace in the Midst of Chaos, and somewhere within that space I'm hiding. And I don't know if you all can see it, but there's a person peeking out of there somewhere, right? And you can? Wow. So, go ahead. And that's me doodling. And so my life today, with a lot of collaborations, being a reentry navigator, a person that have transitioned herself, that understands the pains and traumas and things that persons fight through just to get to a place of becoming. That's my office at home, and that's where that painting sits, and that's where Ronald has convinced me to keep it. Or, do you want to sell it? And I'm like, no, that's, and I don't know. So, what I do today is help individuals in whatever space they're in to find their why, to move past their circumstances in which they're in captive with the systemic things that our nation has created that still remains, and that so many persons are locked up and locked within, unbeknown to themselves. And I think that holds true for everyone that's here today. And you can go on. Again, that's me in the office, and that's this funny looking painting that's behind me that I did. And so the staff couldn't get me the pictures and stuff that I wanted, and so I went through my phone that has probably 24,000 pictures in it, and I found those. And those pictures in my phone are pictures of wonderful people at the beginning of their journey, like I started mine, that they don't see what's in front of them, that when that hope and that light shines in their eyes and they finally see, and they finally enter to a space of freedom, as it seems to be the theme for this weekend, I get to see that journey from the start, that journey with so many people, like a dear brother of mine that was sentenced to life without parole, and he went in at 20 years old, and I saw all of those things, and then to later see that he's walking in the space of his promise and his purpose. That journey is with children who are broken and come from disenfranchised communities that I work with every weekend, and their parents through the week, so that they too can see the hope and embark upon the things and access the things that can be made available to them to move them past their difficulties and their challenges. And all of this was made possible. Birthing the Offender Alumni Association, now we're into language, 8 years ago, with another former incarcerated individual to help with the reentry efforts that so many of us are plagued with. And oftentimes we're given housing or we're able to get jobs, but it's the brokenness and the mental and the emotional stressors and things that we go through within. And because many of us have lived a life within the walls after serving decades in there, where our intimate self, our feelings and our emotions, we have to keep to ourselves because they've taken everything else, even if those things that we keep are painful. And to enter into our second incarceration, that society holds for us with the collateral consequences and not having community to share that in. And that was the purpose. of the OAA, is what I will call it today, a supportive community for persons that have suffered through mass incarceration and the effects that it caused inside and outside of the walls. And so I was able to collaborate with Kai Stevens and the Alabama Prison Art Project in bringing forth to Birmingham like a satellite campus for our students that are currently incarcerated in Alabama, that in our degree programs and our community education programs, a community resource center in which we launched in April, and we actually had our first participants 2 weeks ago, and that was awesome. And it's a place of embarking on pathways to help them just move forward. I know today that freedom has a deeper level, and I'm continuing to become free. I think my true freedom is probably at the end of this life, but while I'm here, as freedoms unfold, I'll continue to embrace it. And that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
I'm Lori Brooks. I'm the director of the William James Association, and our main purpose, our main work is the Prison Arts Project. And I have had the amazing honor of doing this work for 32 years. I started in 1989. And I know Kai's, and love her, and I thank Nicole so much for all that you brought with your brilliance to this field, this amazing work, and just really shining some beautiful light in the darkness. And it's just really.
Lori's one of the first people I interviewed in like 2012.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to read this poem by Spoon Jackson. At night I fly. I soar with the red-tailed hawk. I battle demons, blocking, kicking, and screaming. Sometimes gliding during the day, looking out of my window theater, a narrow slit at the back of the cell, 3 inches wide and 3 feet long. I cherish the buzzards, turkeys, geese, deer, wild dogs, coyotes, snakes, and rock doves. I see spiders sparring at different levels in the windowsill, and sometimes I see my past in the window theater. Even after 4 decades in prison, not one day goes by without me hating myself for the life I took. Sometimes I sprain my foot kicking the walls. In my dreams, why was I chosen to kill and not be killed? I get up from my bunk, broken with remorse and sorrow, the pain eating at my marrow. I wonder when is enough enough? Here where I must live every moment and breathe in every breath, here in my window theater at night, I dream of ruby-painted toes. Isn't it enough you keep me away from people I could surely help, from clean water, nutritious food? Isn't it enough you keep me away from family and friends so long, most have passed on? You keep me away from a woman's breath, touch, scent, and voice. Isn't it enough you keep me away from resting my head in her lap or sleep or to weep? Whose sins am I praying for now after 41 years? I look in my window theater and I see no moon tonight. I look at the first picture of me incarcerated. Look at me today. You don't see the changes? Close your eyes and you'll see inside change as well. How can a man stay sane and not have a woman in his life? It is hell when you see a woman and cannot say hello to her as a man to a woman. Isn't it enough you keep me away from accomplishing many of my goals? Isn't it enough you keep me away from flowers and deserts, from parks, valleys, mountains, rivers, trees, and seas, mountains and dreams that I could see from the barred window theater? Isn't it enough? I read that poem because, Spoon Jackson, I just nominated him last year to be the Poet Laureate of California. I don't think they're going to choose him, but, it's just there's something that art does that cracks me open, and I know it cracks all of us open in some way that nothing else is like that, So, I guess I'll talk a little bit about my journey. I started, I was in college. I'll talk about the slides in a minute. I'll kind of go through those. They could run, they could not, I don't know, anyway. I was in college. I went to live in Tijuana for 6 months, and I worked with a human rights organization, and I worked with street kids and made a video about them. Actually, they took over the video and they made the video about themselves. It was a really amazing experience. And one of the things that we did with the human rights organization was to go into the jails and the juvenile facilities and interview the kids. And they had like all these cool things that they were making. They would unravel their socks and knit these little things. Kind of reminded me of the macrame that I did as a kid. And they'd make little crosses or little hearts or little things that they could give to their loved ones. And it was just so amazing that they found this way to do something with their hands, with their time, to give to their family, to show, that they weren't the worst thing that they had, whatever landed them in prison, in the jail. And then I went on to finish, get a degree in economics and community studies at UC Santa Cruz, and answered an ad in the newspaper, which that was the thing that you did to get a job, and started working at the Prison Arts Project. And I haven't looked back. It's just been such an amazing journey to be able to know people like Spoon Jackson and to be able to hire my good friend Henry Frank a number of years ago, who I knew from his time as an artist inside San Quentin, and the Prison Arts Project we had, originally the California model was that there was actually a facility in each prison, which was just amazing. There was a staff person that was the artist facilitator. So a full-time staff person at each prison running interference and holding the space for art to happen in a sanctuary. It was really a sanctuary. And that all went away around 2003 when the state funding just took a tremendous dive. And we have $30,000 in the bank. And we were like, okay, are we going to have a big party and celebrate what we've done, or are we going to hang on and see what we can do? And so we elected to keep on keeping on. We kept San Quentin going primarily for 12 years. And Ronnie Goodman, the San Quentin studio, and there's a painting that's in the Marking Time book that is Ronnie Goodman's portrait of, it's a portrait of the art studio, but anyway, that's Ronnie doing portraits, and he was just an amazing artist, anyway, we kept it going, we kept things limping along, and then the funding came back in 2014, and we were able to, we were still around, and all of the artists that worked for us, when we lost all the funding, they just wouldn't stop coming in. It didn't matter that they weren't being paid anymore. How's my time?
You have about 4 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So, it's just been amazing to be part of this. But when we lost our funding, it was kind of a wonderful opportunity that was thrown at us from the National Endowment for the Arts. So we got to go to, it was pretty much the organization, got to go to work in federal prisons, and that's where I met Kais and some of the wonderful artists working in federal prisons. and get to see kind of what is going on around the state. But, you know, it's just, I mean, our model is really just about finding the best artists we can and giving them some support and training, mostly peer support, peer training sort of stuff. You know, when we would hire the artists for the federal prisons, we'd bring them to San Quentin and we'd show them our art studio. We'd have the artists that were incarcerated talk to them about what it's like to work in a prison, what it's, you know, what to look out for, what to, you know, how to navigate that crazy system, and that's kind of what we, you know, that's our model, is just to find the best artists and let them loose and let the artists that were teaching artists, you know, share their gifts, their craft, their love and passion for the art, and then they were as much changed by the experience as the incarcerated artists were. It's just really been wonderful to get to know the artists that are drawn to this work, many of you, and just it's kind of been amazing. So here's, yeah, these are just some images, the best ofs. We had a wonderful dance program at the women's prison at Chowchilla. Music. And
People were making instruments in the prison arts program too. They were
Yeah.
building instruments.
yeah. And there was a time when there's Henry's piece.
Is this Henry?
That's Henry. Yeah, that's Henry. Here's Ronnie, here's Patrick, John. Tani Steiner is just an amazing individual. I'll tell you the story sometime. He escaped from San Quentin. Yeah, I know. He would always tell it at the readings, and he was, you know, really powerful. Thank you.
I'm so caught up in your own story, I kind of forgot my own. Okay, my name is Ronald McKeithen. I work for Alabama Appleseed. My title is reentry coordinator. I served 37 years in prison, have been out 18 months. December 16th, made 2 years I've been out of prison. And for me to even begin to make a list of stuff I've done since I've been out, I can't remember all of it. But speaking of art, my introduction to art was really through love for my grandmother. One day in prison, I made her a card, and she was so crazy about the card. I'm like, man, I'll make another one. And by the time I was released, every card I make, I'll make it different. I don't want nothing the same. By the time she died, I guess I felt like I was somewhat of an artist. But Kai Stevens, I was a part of the classes that she was bringing in prison. And I took an art class of hers, and one of the instructors had told me that, well, I told her that I wanted to learn how to draw faces. I never could do it. I was good at flowers and designs and just make these cards for my grandmother, but I didn't know how to do faces. And she kind of stood over me and just looked at what I was doing, and she just looked at me and said that, you know, you can do it. And she was cute, beautiful. And I'm like, it's like, I believe I can, you know, and I started doing it. And a lot of times what inspired me to do this was like, I love drawing pictures with a mother and a child. And I think that came from me missing my mother because she was murdered. Well, I found she died, but I found out 6 months later she was murdered. That was like a man dying twice. And so when I found out she was murdered, it was like I had this guilt because the people that murdered her, if I was out there, it wouldn't have happened. And so I just found myself wanting to draw these things where a mother embracing a child. And at the time, I didn't know that art was therapeutic. I just started doing it. It got to the point where I started teaching beginner's art classes and advanced art classes. And for the advanced art classes, it wasn't like I was this great artist that I was teaching guys how to paint and all of that. I was just creating a space for whatever you like to do. Okay, you can do it right here. You've got this hour and a half to just work on your art without any distraction from the police or anybody. And since I've been out, I didn't have no intentions of displaying this art or usually that art exhibits. It's just that a friend that kept them when I went there, she opened the box, it was like a holy grail, like, man, where you get all that from? I forgot about most of the work. But my thing was that I thought I was going to die in prison. With life without parole, I filed everything, 37 whatever years. I thought I was going to die. And the thought of having something I drew on somebody's wall, you know, to me was like having Martin Luther King and Jesus up. That people might look at it and say, hey, talk about it or something. It's like, even though I die, I'm still in different places. And so I had this thing where instead of me trying to sell my work, I love giving it away. You know, and what I really love is like giving to somebody when they look. I'm never satisfied with what I do, but when somebody looks at it and I can see the expression like, oh, okay, it's good, yeah, you can have it, you know. And they get on me about that because they say I need to make some money. Yeah, and like cars, I got some cars that I don't have intentions to sell them. I just want to give them away because I just want you to smile, you know. And right now, what I'm doing now. Dina is the first person that took me on the little wings when I got out, Alabama Appleseed. OAA, Affiliates Alumni Association. In fact, I was working part-time for her, part-time for Alabama Appleseed, and part-time for Alethea House. I don't know how this happened, I'm just working in places helping folks. And now I'm full-time at Alabama Appleseed. And, yeah, thank you. Alabama Appleseed, we save lives and we change laws. We change laws that affect poor communities. And we save lives. Let's say, for instance, the first guy's life that we saved, he was serving 30, life without parole, didn't lock up 36 years for a $50 robbery. Hadn't touched or killed anybody. And the judge was like so stunned. So the judge got in touch with Alabama Appleseed and said, hey, do something for this guy. They figured out how to get him free. And so once they got him free, other people knew I was in the same situation. And so, hey, you need to get Ron out. And so they came and got me out. I was doing so much in prison, I think I left with 110 certificates. I had different people from other colleges writing stuff, so I was a good candidate. But at the time, even I was watching news when this guy was free. And even when I saw him, I know the guy, I walked the field with him before he went to court. And I'm like, hey man, you're gonna be talking to him. And so I saw, and they didn't even connect me then, well, hey, to get in touch with him. Because one thing you gotta understand about prison, is people in our situation, you reach out to different organizations, they don't respond. You know, like the guy was happy to hear from you, they don't respond. When I talk to my lawyers, I hadn't talked to a lawyer in 37 years. That's the first lawyer, that's the first lawyer I ever looked at my case. And so even if they couldn't have done nothing for me, the fact of me being able to go over there and just talk to a lawyer, see my name in the newsletter, oh man, you don't understand how that felt. You know, and even when they told me I was on, like, the judge, you know, the day took the thing to the judge, I was going to get out. I'm like, I'm not finna, get my hopes up high because guys have killed themselves in prison for that. You know, it's right now, so many laws, so many bills they tried to pass that was going to like open the door for guys, all these guys with life without parole. It was just game. They were just feeding the public stuff. And then when guys come up for parole and stuff, they get set off 5 years and they do everything they can do. Guys like Ty, guys killing themselves for that. So me, myself, I'm tired of letting myself hopes get high when it happened to happen. And I don't want to believe it until I walk at that gate, or when I walk at that gate and embrace them, okay, all right, I can accept it now, But my motto in prison, and even out here, is I don't have the luxury of being unproductive. Because I saw guys with citizens. I don't have the luxury of being unproductive. I've had in prison, they didn't offer a lot, so we had to go find it. I had to surround myself with guys that a friend of mine had found, Sonny Jennings, had found the debate book in the library. And he was like, man, we gotta start a debate class. I bet let's do it. We started a debate class. It got so good to where the administration wanted to take it over and but this got crazy. All of a sudden he said, man, let's start a French class. I said, I'm gonna let you do that. I'm still working on English, but we can do the French classes. But that's not me. But it's the thing where you have to create classes. with the art, I had to create the beginner's art class. I had to create the the advanced. They was somewhat created, but I had to kind of like take it and keep it going because other guys. But it was just creating a space, because this is the thing that killed me, that hurt me in prison. I wasn't aware of all the potentials I had. I didn't know I could like do so much with my hand, work with wood. I didn't like to draw. I didn't like to write. You know, and when you're in prison, you find out these potentials. You get mad because now, man, I'm gonna die in here, and I don't get this chance to really just live. And it upset me. And so what I did, I said, okay, since I can't do it, let me teach it to other people. And so I was a barber, and every time I cut someone's hair, my thing is, whatever conversation I'm going to have, I'm going to steer it to something constructive. And so it just got to the point where a lot of guys kind of respected me, and they knew what I was about, to the point where when they called for me to go home, I got applause. And that freaked me out, because I'd never seen anybody clap for anybody, except for a football game. And I didn't even realize that it was, when they called my name, I'm still thinking like, when I heard the applause, I finally woke up, okay, this thing must be real, you know. But right now, my life is not so much centered around art. I'm talking a lot about art. I can't go anywhere except art coming up because of the art I did while I was in prison. You know, that's the card. That's why I used to do a little card thing, you know, try to do the card thing. But it's so much more to me than art. It's so much more that I had to go to reinvent myself. It's things I had to read. It's things I had to rethink. It's people that had to really start to sit down and listen to that I didn't even like, you know, old cats and stuff that I had to listen to. And then next thing I found myself, I'm the one that's giving out the wisdom. I'm the one that's encouraging you to do this. I'm the one that's teaching this. And I don't know how it happened because I didn't plan this. I was telling somebody that I didn't plan to come out and do all this stuff I'm doing. I just wanted to come out and give them a nice place, find me a good woman, have some kids, don't have it. You know, pass out a little food out of place, you know, something. But man, now it's like it got to the point I didn't have no time for my life. I actually had to resign from working for her just to have time for my life. I used to feel like I miss talking to these kids. I love going over and talking to these kids, you know. But I didn't have a life, you know. But it's so, the thing about prison, you don't have options. You have to make them. You be like thirsty for something to do. But now there's so many options. And I was so thirsty, I'm like, I'm going to do that. Want to go here? Let's go here, let's do that. And so right now, as I told her, I'm like living a dream. I didn't have a sense of the dream. And it's like, I'm blessed. And I'm happy, and it makes me feel good to be in a position where I can like wake people's eyes up to what's really going on in prison and show people how art can heal you. Because it healed me. You know?
Thank you all so much. All the presentations were really moving. I'm deeply, deeply honored to be here and hear you all share. We have 10 minutes before our next panel, and I just would like to open it up for Q&A. So just raise your hand and I'll come around. Or actually, Xavier, do you mind just circling around too? Okay, thank you.
I think that was very sweet that you was giving away your cards, and it's interesting that we had dinner. We was right next to each other and was connecting. What my question is, how many of those cards you have left?
I think I've got like maybe 15. I just gave one to the lady at the desk because she got me an ironing board. I went so much trouble. I tried to get an ironing board last night, and this morning she just got it. I said, I gotta give you something. And so I got like 15 of them.
You gave her an actual one that you drew from when you was inside?
No, actually, no. It's not. It's a print.
Oh,
but I just
okay.
gave it to her. Yeah,
Okay.
I want to give her something.
All right, because I think we should talk. I can help you sell some of your works.
I'm in the process of doing all of that, but let me try to explain. I'm not so caught up right now in trying to like venture in business, making money, because right now I'm too caught up in like trying to these guys coming out of prison. Because the guys that we're getting out, I know these guys. I've done like decades with them. And it's like right now I'm concentrating on what I'm going to be able to do for them when they get out. Art, I'm caught up here, but I'm going to get to that. I'm doing some work. But I've got a lot of stuff I'm going to print and was going to like do a little business thing, let my niece or somebody handle it. But my focus now on these guys getting out of prison, you know, and trying to make sure they get their life together. Because if you knew, when the guy do like 20, 40 years, when they come out, the mental thing, it's a lot. And I need to like have my mind on that. But I still draw. I'm getting to drawing and stuff in my apartment and stuff, you know, but I'm doing it. But you're right, I need to do that. And people been telling me to do it for the longest, but because I've been having printing, I made us sold 15, but I got to stop doing that, man. I got to stop.
Well, don't stop now. I want to buy some.
As his new manager, you guys can get my information. And just as I started in December, almost 2 years ago, I'm right here to help him continue to walk forward. I am Dina, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, you're right.
This is what we've done for almost 2 years, okay?
I have a website that a friend of mine set up to sell cards and stuff, but I haven't even took the time to learn how to go and even work it. I just send people there to go look at it. I don't expect you to buy it, you know, but it's there to look at. But listen, I'm gonna get into that. I know the importance of it, but it's just that I know these guys that we're trying to say. Whenever they like show something, man, I know this guy, I know this guy. When they tell me to try to get them out, bam, I got to start what I'm gonna do for to get out. And not saying artists done so much for me, but right now, their lives are a little important to me than my art. I don't discredit anybody else, but that's just the job, the position I found myself caught up in. And I'm committed to it. But I'm gonna get back to my art because y'all encourage me. Every time I see anything anybody else do, when I just see the stuff on the walls of this hotel, I'm like, man, I can do that.
So let's get in a couple of questions. Asia has a question, and Stephen, was your hand up also?
I just want to say that I really appreciate the fact that when you refer to people in prison, you're referring to them as artists, as musicians, as people, as the guys, as the women. I was in prison, but I did not want to take the label prisoner or inmate or be called by my last name 24/7 or my charge. And I never want people that are still inside to, when I hear the word inmate and prisoner, like it like does something to my stomach. And the people that are still inside, they are people. And I don't want them to be called prisoners because then you start internalizing this information. And you're like, am I an artist? Am I a man? And like, these things everything has been stripped from me. And now I'm a prisoner. And it's just so dehumanizing. And I just want to like say that I thank you for calling people what they are and not what the state and what our oppressors have labeled us as.
I think I'm kind of sneaking in here, so thank you in advance. I just want to thank you all. Ron was my partner earlier. We just locked eyes in the midst of speaking, and when I went over there, we talked about a lot of great things. One of the things that come top of mind and has inspired me in listening to everyone today is our BS, our belief system, right? A lot of what when Ron talked and everyone spoke is we're not cognizant of all the things that we're actually capable of. And sometimes it takes someone else sparking and wow, I'm really an artist or I'm whatever I am. And so Ron, I thank you. When we were talking, we also talked about finances. So I'm a CPA, corporate American background. In fact, I took a survey the other day and it asked about what you were doing in the community. And while I have something in my head, the importance of getting it and implementing it is even bigger. And today, especially listening to you, Gary, I was inspired of you really just start where you're at. And instead of making something perfect or trying to perfect it, because people will let you know what's working and you can always work through that. So thank you all for inspiring me today to not wait for anything further, but to start now and meet people exactly where they're at with the gifts that God has given me. So just want to share some gratitude today for this.
I just want you to explain second incarceration. You mentioned you had so many interesting ways of expressing the situation, but one of them that I just wanted to know what you meant by there's an incarceration and then there's a second incarceration, and I think there was something really deeply buried in that. I just didn't quite get it clearly.
Thank you. That's a great question. I think she spoke to it, the dehumanization that takes place. I think the internalization of those things that you also carry out with you after your exit, and that you start self-imposing and self-inflicting. And then when you knock on the doors to all of the things that make everyone's life possible, jobs, housing, health care, mental health, getting an ID, having to have an ID to get IDs, all of those things, just because of a decision that you've made, your consequence never stops. It continues to perpetuate even the more harm, which if the harm that's done to me, like I did 10 years on my sentence, and the thing that kept me going was my children. When I left home, they were 4 and 6, and when I returned, they were 14 and 16 years old. And the only thing I can think of is that when I get out of here, I don't want to be the lady that came into the back gate of this prison. And so I had started looking at me through some real ugly lenses myself, instead of it just being a choice and a decision that I had made. And that choice and decision was made out of survival, just trying to survive poverty through alcoholism, in which came through the trauma that I had experienced and not understanding neither of those things. And now my children have to pay for that. And they will continue to pay, because I wanted to come home to my children, and I had to exit into a halfway house because the parole board, after denying me 5 times and then saying yes on the 6th time, said that they wouldn't accept the home plan that I had, which was with my family, that I needed to go to. After 10 years of incarceration, I needed to go to a halfway house. And I embraced that. Well, maybe I do, right? I need to learn life skills or whatever the case is. And so I could never bring my children home. And I can remember me wanting to bring my son to Birmingham, where home is for me, and where home has always been, but I lived in Huntsville where he was born and my daughter was born. And him telling me, no, I don't want to come there. My friends and all of that, and me saying, well, I don't have the right, as his mother, as someone that has missed him, to just uplift him from his life. And, you know, and then the thought was, where would you bring him? You're in a halfway house. And I had to stay there until the state decided that it was okay for me to leave and look for my own place. And then my own place had to come through a housing program that I had to go through a lot of hoops with for 18 months after my exit, to only be denied no when I got a better job, because my income had exceeded what the allotted income is for discounted houses, which even with the other job that I had received, I still wasn't able to afford better housing than the conditions in which I had left. And 10 years later, I still haven't had my children at home. The very thing that gave me the breath, the energy, all of that to be challenged within and without, you know? And so that's the second prison for us. To have to check a box, to have a red scarlet letter on your ID before we were able to get it passed for individuals that have charges that's, you know, less desirable to talk about. Those things that our community in which we want to come home to be a productive member of it, which means contributing to it, still denies us that access. So that's second incarceration for me.